Hello, everyone. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and the Evolution Revolution. And we are reading Friendship with God, or I'm sorry, New Revelations. I'm sure that just came floating right off my. Anyway, it's the New Revelations, A Conversation with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And we are on page 213, chapter 20. And we are going to go ahead and let Linda take it away.
Okay. So this is Neil speaking. My God, why are we so stubborn? What will it take for us to alter our beliefs, to mend our ways, to change? How much more death and destruction do we have to bear before we say enough? Oh, you've said enough a long time ago. You simply don't know how to stop what you're doing, even after you've all had enough. Well, is there a way that we can? There
Hey,
does not
Linda?
seem to be a way.
Linda?
Oh, there is a way. There most definitely is a way. I'm already to you.
Hey,
Well, give it
Linda?
to me again. You can stop the death and destruction. Your fault.
Hello, Linda.
Take them slow. These are fallacies.
Okay, we just lost Linda. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you too.
All right, so let's wait for Linda to come back. I could hardly understand anything Linda was saying.
Same here. I couldn't hear it.
Yes, same here.
So, Linda, are you back with us? Just give her a minute or two here. She's chatting.
Okay, I've come back in on just a phone line as opposed to in the Zoom app. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can everybody hear you?
I don't know what happened. I mean, my computer dumped, the phone dumped, everything dumped. Did you guys get dumped, or was it just all of us?
It was just you, all of the Lindas.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
then there were 3 windows open for Linda, for you, Linda.
Right, because I have a guest here using one of my iPads, and then I have it open on my computer, and then I had dialed in with my phone. So
Okay, so now you're just.
now I'm just dialed in. I'm not using the app, so I hope we don't get dumped again.
Well,
I don't
I'll
know
let
what
you
happened.
know. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start again, because we didn't hear anything.
Start from the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we had a bad cell or something. I don't know. All right, let's try it again. So this is Neil. My God, why are we so stubborn? What will it take for us to alter our beliefs, to mend our ways, to change our minds? How much more death and destruction do we have to bear before we say enough? You've said enough a long time ago. You simply don't know how to stop what you're doing, even after you've all had enough. Well, is there a way that we can? There does not seem to be a way. Oh, there is a way. There most definitely is a way, and I've already given it to you. Well, give it to me again. You can stop the death and destruction if you will give up your false beliefs and the mental constructions you have built around them. Okay, we've taken a very close look at our false beliefs. These are what you call the 5 fallacies about God and the 5 fallacies about life, yes? Yes. These are the major false beliefs of humans. Okay, We've taken a very close look at these. Now, what do you mean by mental constructions that we have built up around them? You have stitched together in your world a complex interweaving of spiritual, philosophical, political, and economic concepts that pretty much govern your collective experience. These concepts arise from a certain mental construction that you have formed on the basis of your false beliefs. And those mental constructions, ideas about how things are, that you have literally built up in your mind, produce in your outer experience certain human conventions. These conventions are ways of doing things, collections of behaviors that create a framework into which you pour your lives. Many of you consider the mental constructions that have produced these social conventions to be the most important and worthy in your entire human value system, when actually they can be the most detrimental. They are often what stop you from doing something as simple as living together in peace and harmony and happiness. What are these mental constructions? Can you name them? There are many of them, and they are all temporary. They evaporate as soon as you alter your beliefs, because they are based on your beliefs. Still, you must keep in mind that in cosmic terms, temporary means anything from 5 minutes to hundreds or thousands of years. If something only lasts 2,000 years, it's barely a blip on the radar screen of eternal life. Yet in human terms, this can be an eternity. However long it takes, and for some human beliefs, it takes a very long time. As soon as your beliefs change, so do the mental constructions that support your life. Once you believed that the world was flat, then you came to understand that it was round, and all of the mental constructions that supported your life changed around that. Once you believed that the sun and the entire solar system revolved around the earth. You said that your planet was the center of the universe. Entire theologies were created around this belief. When Copernicus offered proof that this assertion was false, he was denounced as a blasphemer by the creators and teachers of those theologies. When Galileo later confirmed Copernicus' findings, he too was labeled by the church as a heretic and forced to recant, renouncing his own findings. It was not until late in the 20th century, 300 years later, that the most holy Roman Catholic Church reversed its position and granted Galileo an official pardon. And so you see how the changing of your most basic beliefs remains your most difficult challenge for humans to hang on to their beliefs, even in the face of clear and incontrovertible evidence that those beliefs are mistaken. Thus, has it been said, all great truth begins as blasphemy. The blasphemy spoken here in this dialogue is multifold. This conversation is a multifold blasphemy. The first blasphemy is that God would speak to humans at all in this day and age. The second blasphemy is that God demands nothing of humans. The third blasphemy is that God and humans are one. The fourth and greatest blasphemy, the statement that will be the hardest for humans to accept, is that many of those most sacred beliefs of human beings are fallacies. They are simply false. False beliefs create mental constructs that do not serve you. Such as the human convention we talked of earlier called mortality. This is one of your most prominent mental constructions. It is an idea created in the mind. You cannot feel it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or hear it. It is a concept, nothing more. And it is a concept built up around beliefs that are false. What are you saying? That there should be no morals? I am not saying what there should or shouldn't be. That is for you to decide. I am saying that this and other mental constructions are based on false beliefs about life and how it is, and that because of this, you have produced certain social conventions that have made it virtually impossible for you to be able to live together in peace and harmony and joy. Well, the philosopher and social commentator Bertrand Russell once said, "It is not only intellectually, but also morally that religion is pernicious. I mean by this that it teaches ethical codes that are not conducive to human happiness." Yet the mental construction that we call morality is the underpinning of our entire way of life. That's right. That's my entire point. And that's why I've brought it up again here. That's why I chose it as an example. But if our mental constructions are based on false beliefs, and if morality is one of those constructions, what are you saying? That our entire way of life is wrong? I'm saying that much of your way of life is not working. If what you say you want is to live in peace and harmony and happiness, it is not working. Well, many say that it would be working if people would just adhere to this mental construction called morality. They say that what stops us from living peacefully together is that people and nations do not honor this construction. They say that it's not the philosophical construction that is the fault, it's the people's behavior. And yet, many of their most damaging behaviors are based on this construction. By human measurements and human standards, you would say that many people act their worst when they think they are acting their best. Ouch, that's tough to hear. I have no judgments about these behaviors or anything else that humans do. But if humans say that what they seek and desire is to live in peace and harmony, they may notice that they often do things when they say they are acting their best that do not lead to peace and harmony. Can you give me an example? Oh, I could give you hundreds of them. How about the father kicking out his unwed pregnant daughter? Or rebuking his son because he married outside the faith or outside the race? Or a family disowning a child for being gay? Well, how about the 23-year-old woman strapping a bomb to her body and walking into a crowd in Jerusalem to set it off? How about a nation occupying the land of another people for decades and keeping those people economically, politically, and militarily subjugated, refusing to grant them even the most basic human rights, and then becoming angry when they become angry, doing desperate things when they do desperate things, and utterly and totally blind to the role that it is itself playing in creating an ongoing human tragedy? People do things like this because they are making moral judgments. Yes, I see that now. This twisting of everything that to you seems right occurs because your construction of morality itself is based on the fallacies we've discussed earlier. People think they are doing right based on what they believe that God wants or life requires, yet their information on that is inaccurate. And that is why often it is not when people ignore morality that difficulties arise, but when people pay too much attention to it. Boy, this really is something. We've got God here telling us that we get into trouble when we pay attention to morals. If you pay too much attention to them, yes. If you put too much credence in them, yes. And that can happen. In fact, it often does. Your morals are merely mental constructions. Your current ideas about things. If these ideas change from time to time, but that's the problem. That's the problem right there. It's the problem that our social commentators call shifting morals. Wouldn't it be interesting if those social commentators had the problem all backward? Look at the world today. The problems you've experienced in the past several years have not been created because of moral shifting, but because of morals not shifting, sometimes for thousands of years. Let me say again that morals are nothing more than ideas about how things are and about how they should be based on what you believe about God and about life. They are ideas, nothing more and nothing less. And they are your ideas, not God's ideas. Human beings tied Matthew Shepard to a cow fence in Wyoming and beat him to a pulp, leaving them there to die, not because of God's ideas, but because of the ideas of human beings, because of morals that have not been shifting. Humans have been ruthlessly discriminated against. Women, blacks, and other people who are minorities in their midst, not because of God's ideas, but because of the ideas of human beings, because of morals that have not been shifting. Human beings have strapped people into electrically wired chairs and turned on the current, killing them in the most inhumane way in order to teach others that killing is bad. Not because of God's ideas, but because of the ideas of human beings, because of morals that have not been shifting. And human beings have created an environment on their planet in which all of this is even possible, not because of God's ideas, but because of the ideas of human beings, because of morals that have not been shifting. Your mental constructions based on false and ancient beliefs about God and about life have produced wildly dysfunctional social conventions, behaviors that you call conventional based on conventional wisdom. Of course, human beings have not developed these kinds of mental constructions to be mean. All of your mental constructions are sincere attempts of the mind to articulate and express underlying principles that support life. Yet when you pay more attention to your mental constructions than to the underlying principles they seek to express, you can indeed get into trouble. What do you mean by underlying principles? This is a new concept being introduced here. What are we talking about? There is a set of basic life principles that lies behind all of existence. And you know it, you remember it at a cellular level, you recall it from some time before time when you were not experiencing yourself as who you imagine yourself to be right now. Still, you have not been able to get close to the core to pull out the essence of these principles, no matter how hard you tried. The false beliefs that you hold about God and life are clouding them over, covering them up, hiding them from your view, and stopping you from knowing them. This is the cloud of unknowing. It conceals the truth from you. It is not that humans do not want to live according to life's truest principles. It's simply that it is not possible for humans to do so when these basic principles are so clouded over by their beliefs that humans cannot even know what the principles are. In short, human beings are trying to live the truth through beliefs that are false. In this, they have set themselves an impossible task, and that is why so much of life on your planet is not working. Now, please, let me acknowledge here that some of your life on Earth is working. You have grown and evolved and become a grander version of humanity. You have learned some from your mistakes. You have progressed in some ways, and you have become, in some ways, a magnificent species. And as I said earlier, you have done this against all odds. That is why it seems such a shame to see you making collective choices at this point in your development that could so drastically and negatively impact the life of your species as you know it, if not completely end it. Those humans who understand deeply what is now going on see that the saddest part of all of this is that so much could improve so quickly with a few simple changes in the things you choose to believe. Well then, let's make this happen right now. Let's turn the tide right here. Well, that's exactly the purpose of this dialogue. That's why we're here, having this discussion. That's the purpose of these new revelations. Okay, so reveal more. You talked about life principles. You said that human beings are seeking to articulate through our mental constructions. What are these principles? The basic principles of life are functionality, adaptability, sustainability, and all of life exhibits. All of life exhibits these principles. All of life demonstrates them. One of these eternal principles stands behind each of your temporary mental constructions, waiting to be revealed. Yet they are covered and hidden by these mental constructions, for they, in turn, are based on false thoughts about life. Because your mental constructions are distorted attempts to express underlying life principles, they produce distorted results. For instance, here are 3 of your species' most popular constructions. The first one I've already mentioned. These are simple ideas you hold in your head that you have translated into social conventions, customs, and practices. Morality, justice, ownership. These are among your most cherished philosophical, political, and economic concepts. What are the life principles they seek to express? In the case of morality, the underlying principle is functionality. In the case of justice, the underlying principle is adaptability. And in the case of ownership, it is sustainability. Well, I certainly don't understand this. Functionality, adaptability, sustainability, whatever. Morality, justice, and ownership make more sense to me. We've built our whole lives around them. How could we live without them? The idea is not to live without them, but to elevate them, to lift them up to the next level of articulation and expression, to move from concept to principle in the living of your lives. This is about raising consciousness, or becoming more fully aware of all that is involved in the process of expressing life, of life expressing. For many people, this may not be easy given the human penchant for keeping beliefs as they are, no matter how unworkable they have become, or always were. There is, however, a fast track that you may take, a way to do this more quickly. What's that? The 5 steps to peace. This produces not just peace in the world, but peace in your inner world. That is the peace we are talking about here, inner peace as well as outer peace. Most human beings have not had much inner or outer peace lately. Neither the state of your world nor your state of mind has allowed it. Yet now you can take the 5 steps to peace and raise your consciousness, moving from concept to principle in considering, exploring, and deeply understanding life. Should you wish to take this fast track, here again is what you must do. Here again are the 5 steps to peace. 1. Acknowledge that some of your old beliefs about God and about life are no longer working. 2. Acknowledge that there is something you do not understand about God and about life, the understanding of which could change everything. 3. Be willing for a new understanding of God and life to now be brought forth, an understanding that could produce a new way of life on your planet. 4. Be courageous enough to explore and examine this new understanding, and if it aligns with your inner truth and knowing, to enlarge your belief system to include it. 5. Live your lives as demonstrations of your beliefs rather than as denials of them. You keep saying things, some things, over and over again. Repetition can be very useful. It can also be annoying and cause people to grow impatient. The serious student never becomes impatient at the repetitions of the master. Those who live fully never become impatient with the repetitions of life. Life itself is a repetition. It is impossible for anything new to occur. It is only possible to have new experiences of that which has occurred many times before. God is a repetition. Life is God repeating itself. Acquire a taste for repetition. When you do, you acquire a love of God and of life. You will know this spring when you once again see the flowers bloom, this summer when you once again bask in the sun, this fall when you once again smell the freshness in the air, this winter when you once again stand in the wonder of a new fallen snow. You will know it when you smile at the sound of a favorite melody that you have heard over and over again, yet of which you never tire, or when you next move into love's fond embrace of which you cannot get enough. These you have done over and over, and yet you love the repetition. Well, that's not exactly the same thing. No. These experiences, wonderful as they are trivial compared to the repetitions involved in explorations of eternal truth. Tire not of seeking the truth, nor of finding it. You have asked for my help at a time of great challenge for the human race. The things being said here have been said over and over in many ways across the span of human history. The form of repetition has not produced a change in basic human behavior. You are invited here to try a new form of repetition. Perhaps the hearing of the same thing over and over again in a very short span of time will impact human behavior. It is all up to you. Do you truly wish to change your world? Do you truly wish your world to change? Then I'm going to make some points here very clear through repetition. Circular logic gains its power from the circle it creates. To travel a circle is to journey over the same ground time and time again. To travel a circle wisely is to journey over the same ground for the first time. In this way, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and the circle, a path to where you wish to be, And when you notice at last that the path has circled back into itself, you realize that where you wish to be is where you have always been and always were. Yes. End of chapter.
Thank you, Linda. I have to tell everybody that on page 222, let's see if I can find this again. Almost there. All right. This is one of those funny moments. I was looking down at my Kindle as Linda was reading page 222 or 221 maybe. And a little bird ran into my window outside my office. Nothing, no harm done, but it made me look up away from the text. And so what I read, or thought I'd read, it says, in short, human beings are trying to live the truth through beliefs that are false. And what I read was, in short, human beings, like short people, are trying to live the truth through beliefs that are false. And I had to go back and reread that like twice because I thought, oh my God, there's such a typo. But anyway, I thought that was, you know, in short, human beings. I was like, so I just thought I'd share that with you guys. And then when God is saying, I'm going to give you an example by some repetitions. Yesterday, my daughter was watching some alleged kids show. And anyway, she was watching it, and all of a sudden, I heard the words to this song, and I was like, oh my God, this show is new. But the song by Kenny Loggins and the sun is going to shine above, even though we ain't got money. I'm so in love with you, honey, and everything will bring blah, 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 blah. So I went downstairs and Piper was singing along with it. And she said, do you like this song? I said, yes, it was one of my favorite songs in high school. And so I think it's a lot of this, the repetition thing is a way to pay attention. You know, so that if you want to try to make something have an impact on you, I mean, look at all the philosophies that do chanting, and a lot of that's repetition. So I think there's many things we can say about this. Over. Anybody else want to share?
I would like to share something about that, because when you say this about repetition, it was a very, very profound and good chapter. I love it. But repetition for me, the most deep repetition is that I repeat to do meditation every day. And that repetition goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And I can't stop doing that every day, because it's the same principle, because I'm using the same way, but it is coming into this core of life in a way that I see it from new dimensions all the time. So that is a repetition that I find fantastic. You just reminded me of that.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And you just made me think of, like in the Catholic Church, when they do the rosary, and there's other religions that do this too, that have prayer beads. It's repetition.
Yeah.
You know, it's and that in itself seems to me to be chant like, meditation like, because you're clearing the mind of all the blah 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 blah.
Exactly.
So anyway, thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for responding.
No worries. Anybody else?
It boggles my mind how we'll ever change things, because morality, justice, and the other stuff, they're the foundation of morality, justice, and ownership. I mean, ownership is big. You know, my house, my property, every law is protecting that. So to see that go, it just beats me how it'll happen. I don't know what we'd repeat to get to enlarge our belief or to replace it. If anyone has a clue, I'd love to hear it.
You can't own anything ultimately because nothing exists.
Well, what about all the title deeds and, you know, laws against stealing?
Right. They're all 3D constructs.
Yeah, but
it's
you
all
tell
an illusion. And then that's exactly how it has to evolve, is people have to wake up to the fact that they don't own anything, that this is all an illusion. It's going to be interesting.
Well, but you know, I mean, the lawsuits for whatever, you know, break and enter, or I don't know. I mean, it might be 3D, but how does a mindset change? I mean, other than the meditation we do here, I just cannot imagine. And I mean, he says it's a spiritual problem, but when you smell the air here in Alberta, Canada, it affects your lungs. Over.
Well, I get it, because it's hard to separate, or it's not easy to separate reality from, okay, what keeps going through my mind is in this chapter, what's the young man's name? Matthew Shepard, who was
Tied to the fence.
Yeah, tied to the fence.
That guy.
Yep, and it's about 30 minutes from my front door where this happened, and it still is difficult for me to not go down judgmental road without ignoring, because there's a difference between ignoring, accepting, and anyway, it just made me think of that, and what Shabana was just saying about, you know, the 3D versus, you know, quote unquote reality and meditation. Over.
I think in the practical sense, how this is going to happen is that individually people are going to come into alignment with the vibrational frequency of love, divine love, not selfish love, not the kind of human love that we see getting expressed, which often can look like anything but when we move into the frequency like David Hawkins talked about, love or above, when we're living our lives and vibrating at a frequency of love or above, all of these things will start to just fall away and fix themselves. So it's going to happen to the collective, but it happens at an individual level.
Linda,
So someone who's, go ahead, Shabana.
I couldn't understand something. I'm sorry, please forgive me for interrupting, but I do want above or above. I don't know, you said something a couple of times, and even with my earphones, I didn't hear it.
It's love or above. At the frequency, so if you're not familiar with David Hawkins, it won't make a lot of sense. But he basically created, I think it was a scale of 1,000. And he shows on this scale of energy where the different feelings fall on this frequency. And so hate, anger, they're way down at like 50. Love is at 500. Joy is at like 750. Christ consciousness is at 1,000. And so if you as an individual are vibrating at a frequency of love or above, meaning you're in that place where you are holding in your heart love for everything, then for you, as you move through your life, things like leases and laws and morality and judgment and ownership will change for you. For the people that are living in a vibrational frequency of 100 or 200, those people won't ever experience that. They won't be able to see how they could not sue someone. They would never be able to understand how ownership is temporary, ownership is illusionary, because they're not at the vibrational frequency that can contain those thoughts even. So that's I believe, to answer your question of how this happens, it happens individually for each of us, and it has to do with our energetic frequency and where we are on a scale of love.
Okay, now you may continue.
Does that help?
Thank you. Yeah, yes, it helps
Okay,
a lot.
no, that's it. I don't know that I have anything more to say about it.
Well, thank you for explaining it. And what I'll do is Google it and, try my best to vibrate at love or above. Thank you.
I'll put some stuff in the chat box for you.
Thank you. Lindapedia.
I was just going to say that. Lindapedia.
Well, that's why we're famous, because we beat each other at our own game.
I know. We can't help it. So does anybody have anything else they want to add before we can talk for another like 5 minutes before we go to the meditation? I'm going to take this out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree completely on this, to be that is each individual. That's what my meditation has taught me, that if I go deep into that frequency, I'm doing the best work for humanity. I can't change, I can't handle the situation because it's so complex and there are so many robotistic. And I think it was yesterday in my meditation that came very deeply that humans are creative beings, not just mechanic doings. The doers. We are creative, but we have to be grounded in that frequency of the source, the love of the source, the love of everything, to create the world we want to have. So I agree completely with that, what Linda said, to be in that frequency. We have some quite good job to do. And this chapter was very inspiring. No, that was just some reflections.
Thank you for the beautiful thoughts today and readings.
You're welcome.
Oh. So a little bit more on David Hawkins. He wrote a book, Power versus Force.
Yep.
And that's and that link that I put in the chat box, if you click on it, you'll see it's an image. It's a colored bar vertically with the various lines of the frequencies drawn onto it. So, just see if I can zoom in on here. Shame is at like 20, guilt is at 30, apathy is 50, grief is 75, fear is 100, courage is 200. I'm not going to read them all. 500 is love, and then 600 is peace, 700 is enlightenment, and 1,000 is maximum energy, or a oneness with source.
Linda, do you remember? Here's a copy of the book if anybody wants to just see what it looks like.
Yeah, I have a copy of it too.
Well, what I was just going to say, I haven't read it in so long, but when I picked it up, I got this kind of that it was not an easy read.
Right. Yeah.
And is that your memory too?
Yeah, it is. And also, there's a fair amount of people that have tried to debunk him too. But the principles of it resonate with me. That's all. And that's all any of us can do, right? We
Yep.
take in what somebody else offers, and it either feels right or it doesn't feel right. If it doesn't feel right, then let it go. It's not everything's going to feel right for everyone. But the basic principles of this philosophy feel right to me.
Yeah, I remember that myself. I just, for some reason, recall it wasn't an easy read for me. I mean, some of it was very spot on, and others I would have to back up and reread to make sure I was following.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank you for bringing that up, Lindapedia, and and Shabana, if you're ready for the meditation, you can go ahead and get that started.
Oh, thank you, God, for showing us that all we need to do is consciously align with oneness, that at this moment, every one of us on this call is doing exactly that. And we thank you that as a group, we truly believe this and look forward to reversing or enlarging or changing the morality, justice, and ownership which need to be transmuted here and now. Amen. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Shabana.
You're welcome.
And thank you, everyone who was here today.
Thank you.
And it's always a pleasure, and always something new comes up, and it's always good.
Mm.
So, until next week, we shall meet again. Love you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. All.
Thanks, Nanette.
Yep. And thank you, Linda, for reading as wonderfully as you always do. Hi, Sarah.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. All right, everybody. We'll talk again next week.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.